The answer to Utah's goal scoring needs could already be in-house. We're going to talk about that and Delta Center renovations on today's Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us once again here on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño, and every single day we bring you the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day when it comes to the UHC. We love talking about the team, what's going on. I know we're into the Stanley Cup playoffs now, and Robyn and I, we'll talk a little bit about that, but we're still going to keep our focus right here on the hometown team. And you know what? The big question, I think, surrounding Utah this year was goal scoring, Robyn. There were just times where the chances were there, but the finish was not there. The answer for that could potentially already be in the organization if maybe a little convincing needs to be done yet. However, there are two very big, and I mean very big, physically, stature, big prospects from the 2023 NHL entry draft who could fill some holes here for Utah.
Absolutely, Tom. And what's interesting is, I mean, both of these players that we're going to talk about have completely different roles. One is a extremely powerful blue liner who, I mean, the reason why he was drafted was because he's big and he's not afraid to use his body. Like, I think last summer we saw a video of this player specifically in a training in a prospect camp setting, just taking a huge check into the board to show his power, and it looked like it could have shattered glass if it was old time hockey. And then another one is, I mean, his nickname is specifically Goals.
So are you saying that perhaps the first player, Dmitri Shimashev, hits like a locomotive? As he plays, Thank you. They both actually play for the same team, Yaroslava Lokomotiv, in the KHL. And we are talking about Shimashev and, as Robyn likes to say, Danny Boots, Danny Goals, Daniil Boot, Danny Goals. There we go. There's the nickname. Can you imagine, Robyn, if you get not one, but both of these players to come over at the same time? Sergachev has already said he's going to include these guys and try. I think there's going to be some lobbying. I really do. I feel like there's going to be some lobbying. Come on over to North America. Check it out. It's worth coming right now. The other thing is, if you don't get these guys over to North America, eventually you're going to lose out on the chance to bring them. But I feel like right now, Robyn, I mean, could Boot be the answer to Utah's goal scoring woes? Now, it might be unusual to say, well, a 19-year-old is going to jump straight to the NHL. From the KHL, I think it's possible. And believe it or not, Boot is the 8th highest scoring 19-year-old in league history. So has shown the ability to play at a very, very high level. And I think that perhaps, Robyn, maybe an outside shot to make the team next year.
Look, Tom, there is a reason why everyone has called him Danny Goals, and it's not just because Boots is a French translation of goals.
That does help, though.
It does help a lot.
Yes, so that'll even translate in Montreal when he goes up there. But just, Robyn, by real quick way of example, so players that Boot has more points than as a 19-year-old in the KHL, Artemi Panarin, Vladimir Tarasenko, Kirill Marchenko. I think even casual NHL fans know those names.
That is some incredible company to be in.
That is pretty impressive. Again, what's the difference, Robyn? I know a lot of our folks, even if you're a diehard hockey fan, you might not quite understand the KHL where it ranks. And I've talked to a bunch of guys who have played over there. Essentially, the most common thread of description is that the top 2 lines in the KHL are really good, potentially NHL caliber lines. After that, it drops off, especially on the smaller market teams. Now,
Yep.
the bigger teams that spend more money are deeper, and there's a reason why they're always in the playoffs or trying to win a championship. But essentially, yes, the KHL is, Robyn, I think what we might call a quadruple A league. I think most teams in the K are better than the American Hockey League counterparts, but they're not nearly as good as NHL teams.
Yeah, it is right there in the in-between. And again, you'll see a lot of players in the KHL who can easily crack an NHL roster. But then others, like you said, like you probably better find them in the American Hockey League. It's kind of, and that's kind of why I discussed with Tom about how it was. It's like it is that half step in between. It is your half step between the National Hockey League and the American Hockey League. But the difference being, of course, this game happening, all the way over in Europe, in Eastern Europe.
Robyn, I want to talk about what the realistic chance is if both Shimashev and Boot come over. Realistically, and we can address one player at a time. If they land in the AHL versus if they land in the NHL. I'll let you go ahead and tell me what you think first is realistic for each player.
For each player, I mean, I guess if we want to go, individually, let's go ahead and start with Dmitri Shimashev for me, and say that I love his game. I love seeing the power that we saw from him just in that prospect camp last year. But I still do think that there is there's some development to be made. I feel like, and finding an adjustment, a very specific adjustment to how the North American game works. I do think he would have that Dmitri Shimashev will have a significant benefit being a part of the Tucson Roadrunners, even if it is for half a season or less before he joins the Utah Hockey Club.
I can see Shimashev probably spending the whole year in the American Hockey League. Outside chance to make the roster, sure. If you come over and you're that impressive. And I think Utah is a team that might give someone a look out of the gate.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation, especially with how Utah built its blue line this last season, right? There's so many questions that were put into place, and now I feel like Utah has been a little bit comfortable with how they built it. They still might add some pieces, tweak some things during this off season, but I kind of don't. I feel like they want to kind of save and develop what's going to be an anchor piece of this blue line in the future before, they don't want to rush them into the North American game and be like, all right, here, be a part of, see how you pair up, alongside Sean Dursey and see what happens. And that's against some of the best in the National Hockey League as well. Like, that's a difficult ask.
And talking about the difference between the international size rink and the USA, NHL, Canadian rink is 15 feet wide. Now, those of you who are Olympic hockey fans already know this. It's 200 by 100 for the playing surface. So that extra 7.5 feet in the international game changes everything. It changes your defensive angles. It changes your gap control. It changes the angles on a goaltender. It changes how forwards attack and how forwards enter the zone. It's a very different game. 7.5 feet on each wing is a lot of extra space.
It very much is. And I'm pretty sure you, Tom, is, as someone who's been a goalie, can understand the difference. And because in the North American rinks, these are so, they feel a lot smaller, right? Even if it is that they just feel so much smaller, where your angles are. All the players are closer together. So there's more traffic, there's a lot of other things. But here, there's a lot more open space and a lot of things can happen. Those 7.5 feet on each side, as you said, makes the world of a difference.
Robyn, I remember the first time I ever got a chance to play, and I was a goaltender, but even as a goaltender on an international size rink, and it just happened to be at Lake Placid, New York, which was very cool, on that 1980 ice. It was crazy how much bigger it felt. Now, I know that I'm still, the net is still 4x6.
Right.
It didn't get bigger on me, but it felt like I had to go so much further, so much faster to stay on top of guys. And at this tournament, it was crazy, the speed on which guys could get down the wing, and then our defense had a horrible time adjusting to it. I do remember that, but there was a lot of chances cutting in from the wing. Well, you run out of room faster in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
I think defensemen actually might appreciate that a little bit more because there's less area to patrol. But the other thing too, in making that adjustment, Robyn, we talk about it, but the gap, the speed control, moving up on a guy, when to step up on them, if to step up on them and rub them out on the wall. These are all things that Shimashev's going to have to get used to.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of different aspects too, right? And you still see it in the international game, but something that you'll see a lot here in North America, and something that I love to do as a forward, is I attack the boards, right? You see, it's a lot easier to attack those boards because that's the best way. That's the best way to get around, to kind of get along those sides, because of how much less space there is in the North American game. It's things are going to be a lot more crowded, and your best course of action, very what's the term I'm looking for? Very awkwardly is along, on the outside.
Yeah, there's a lot more time and space out there.
Yeah, versus in the national game, it's like you're not going to get if you attack those boards, you might be a little more tired.
Yes,
you have to cut in a lot more.
Yes, that's for sure. All right, let's talk about Danny Goals here. I want to get into what he's facing potentially coming over here, and why I think he could be an impact player as early as next season. And today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Hey, the NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel's giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you can get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel, I love it because it makes picking your favorite team or diving into player props so easy to do. Whether you want to get kind of out there in the weeds, Jazz fans, I know you're probably watching somebody right now in the Western Conference of the NBA playoffs. You can jump at three-pointers, steals, assists, if somebody's going to make a triple-double. And FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, even after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay, and it gives you a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Thank you so much for making us that first listen for you each and every single day. And if you're here and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Go ahead and just click the button, and you will have Robyn and I downloaded to your podcast player of choice, or perhaps to your YouTube feed. And you can jump on and be a part of the show every single day. Talking right now about what's going on, the potential. Bill Armstrong said at his media availability to end the season that he's going to wait until Locomotive is done for their season. Once they're done, once they're out, negotiations are going to begin hardcore. Robyn, I don't know. I don't think overconfident, but I think definitely confident, perhaps, is the way it came across to me, that something could get done with both players and they could land in camp in the fall.
That definitely seems to be the general consensus among a lot of people in media. I got a chance to talk to a Utah reporter and Tucson reporter over at the Roadrunners games last weekend, and we were kind of talking about this very thing. And I was we were talking about, all right, what are the chances those two players are here in the North American game, either for Utah or for Tucson next season? And from the understanding is, the consensus is it's pretty high. It's like the feeling is that they're going to get it done, and they're going to find out some way to bring both of these guys, both Dmitri Shimashev and Daniil, on over to the North American game, whether it is in Utah or in Tucson.
And now here's where my controversial opinion comes in. I think that even as a 19/20-year-old, that Boot has a good chance to crack the lineup next year. Defensively, I think we can agree they have their top six for the most part. I would argue, and I will argue with anyone who wants to argue, that Kesselring could be bumped out of top six. Someone could come along and replace Kesselring in the top six, and I feel that could happen. D. Simone has said he wants to come back, but is UFA. Bortuzzo's UFA, and quite honestly, I'm not even entirely sure if Robert Bortuzzo is going to be in the league next year or might retire.
Right.
Especially it was a rough end of the year for Robert Bortuzzo. But all of that said, Robyn, I think defensively it's tougher for a Shimashev to crack the lineup than it would be for Boot, because top six forwards, especially those who can put the puck in the net at an NHL level, don't grow on trees. And while Utah is not one to rush development, I think if you are looking at a guy who can add 30 goals, maybe more to your lineup, I don't see why you don't give that type of player the chance to start in your everyday NHL lineup.
Especially if you pack even more talent on the wing. Like, absolutely. I mean, we're getting, adding another left winger in Daniil Boot will go a super long way. And you're right. I do think that because of that, there is a significant benefit in having Boot as part of this, as part of making the NHL roster. I do think there is a scenario, Tom, where, and this is a little bit different than my thought process for Shimashev. I said through Shimashev, maybe he'll be like half a season, maybe more in Tucson. I have a feeling that that Boot will probably still spend some time in Tucson, but it's kind of being like kind of floating up and down. We'll probably see maybe it's a like he's like called up like and spends like the first however many games in Utah. And it's like, all right, let's we got you guys your cup of coffee. You know what it's like. Let's bring you down to Tucson so you can grow, especially with your teammate in Shimashev, since you guys know how each other work. You guys can work together in this season in Tucson. And then and both of you guys come back and be NHL ready next year.
And all that makes sense. And absolutely, I agree with you. The one other interesting factor to this now is there's another left wing who's essentially all but departed, and that's Matias Maccelli. Maccelli was supposed to be that guy, right? We expected him to grow to 60, 65 or more points this year. Big time regression. And perhaps, so to your point, if everything starts the way you're saying, okay, these guys in Tucson together, which makes sense, especially because they're teammates this year. And then Maccelli gets maybe one more kick at the can here because they are paying him, right? He's $3.425 million. That's nothing to sneeze at. Maybe they do give him one more kick at the can and go, you know what? Prove to us that this was a down year. Prove to us that you were just off. Come back, start the year strong, have a great summer, have a great camp, and earn your place back on this team. That'll give you your chance. If he does that, then I think you ride out a year with Maccelli on that left side, and you give both Boot and Shimashev their full year in Tucson, because there's no way I want either one of those guys sitting in Utah when they could be playing every day in the American League.
That is the key, especially with knowing how well the Tucson Roadrunners have developed the players. You take a look at the growth a lot and the outbreak of a lot of the players who have made their way out of Tucson. You can look at the early years, of Dylan Strome and Connor Garland and Lawson Krause, who made their, the years that the years you were there, Tom. Those players. Sure. But also to mention, players like Michael Carconi, who, as we mentioned, is not going to come back to Utah, but had a significant jump in improvement because he spent a decent amount of time under the development coaches with Tucson, with Matias Maccelli, who broke out and had an amazing few years in Tucson. I could go on. And it really says something about the coaches over there. You and I have always had nothing bad to say only good things to say about Potvin and Slaney down there. And I think that's kind of why there's a huge benefit to having both of them together down there, especially if they can spend a full year down there. It would potentially a decent Calder Cup run next year.
Well, and that's going to be the interesting thing too. And Robyn, great chance for me to plug your coverage of the AHL playoffs that you're going to be following Tucson for however long the ride lasts. Starting in Abbotsford Wednesday night, as folks will be seeing this on a Wednesday or hearing it on a Wednesday, at least in most likelihood you are. Game 1 of the series kicks off there, and all 3 potential games are in Abbotsford. So we will also have that coverage for you.
Quick.
Go ahead, Robyn.
Quick note about that. Really quick note about that, since you did mention it. If you are a Tucson-based fan listening to this podcast and want to know what's going on, and you didn't see the news, there are 3 locations that Tucson Roadrunners are hosting watch parties all throughout town. They have from Oro Valley all the way through the east side. You can take a look on their Twitter profile, and I'll even go out and retweet those on our Twitters, so you guys can find out where exactly you can go watch those.
Absolutely. Great point right there. So yeah, see, yet another reason why you need to be following us over on social media. All right, Robyn, earlier this month, there was a letter sent out to season ticket holders about renewal for next year, which is not unusual, but what is unusual is the seating map has changed, and we had a chance to study it a little bit, take a look at it. And when we come back, we're going to talk about maybe I spy a few differences for next season down at Delta Center. We'll talk about the renovations and the impact they're going to have in just a moment.
And today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. I know I personally love the feeling of just cracking open those shells, and it's a really unique, satisfying feeling. Honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I get that the dopamine relief whenever I do that. It just makes me feel good. It's really for me, but I can't do that when I'm on the road because, well, it adds a whole lot of aspect of maybe something that can take my attention off driving. So what I do if I'm on a long road trip is I'll grab the no shells variety, because it really makes things easier to kind of just go ahead and have a really good snack on the road. So I'm not having to stop and say, hey, I need to go to grab a snack. I need to do this. I need to do that. It's something that will kind of hold me down, go through those really long road trips, because I've done long road trips. I've done like 14-hour road trips in a single day. They're not fun, but hey, I get through them. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the reasons that helps me get through those road trips with relative ease. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Okay, Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño back here with you on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. If you like what you hear, and number one, I expect you've already subscribed because you're still here by now. And clearly you think Robyn is amazing and I'm tolerable. So if we're at that point, now it's time to tell your friends. So go ahead and suggest the show to other people out there and let them know about the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. We very much appreciate that. The more we grow, the more we can do, the more we can bring to you. And, you know, we like to do some fan service stuff. I'm actually going to be doing a breakdown, Robyn, in a little bit of the SEG Plus, which I had a chance to do at the end of the season. I really have to collect my thoughts on that. But one of the things that came out, I'm going to flip this graphic up here. Membership renewal pricing has come out for Utah Hockey Club members. Now, Robyn, number one, there's a lot of different tiers of seating prices. Holy cow. There's a lot. The lower bowl, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. We're talking like what? 30 different options, 31 different options. Yep. And the upper bowl has, let's see, 25 different options. That's a lot and can be confusing. But Robyn, something to note is the seating configuration around the way the rink is shown in this diagram is a little different, and I think it's going to reflect the change in some seating positions for what the renovations are going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely giving us a look, and it's nice that, I mean, they're already starting this summer, right? And my
Right.
understanding is there are some aspects of the arena that I think the team store has actually closed down for the summer because they're focusing on making the renovations and getting done as quick as they can. And it's still going to take a while, right? As you're seeing from this map, Tom, the upper bowl ends are still going to be closed off for those select games because those are going to be a later project. We're going to see it probably focus on that a little bit later because that's going to be a handful to focus on.
It is. It absolutely is, and I understand that, and it makes sense. Robyn, you and I were talking about not only some interesting value propositions here, and I know that not everybody's going to be able to zoom in and see the pricing on these. It's probably pretty small, especially if you're watching YouTube on your phone. You have no prayer, and we're gonna talk about the numbers. The
Right.
best, not the best, the least expensive seat. Let's start there. Is at the tops of sections 135, 136, 137, and 107, 108, 109. And this is again renewal price. So if you were not a season ticket holder, this is not your jump in price, but $1,903 is your full season price for those. That is the least expensive on the renewal. So as far as just value, I want to save as much money as possible, but still have season tickets. That's pretty much your option, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. There, especially if you really don't plan on going to the entire season, the standard half going for just over $1,000. Not all that bad if you're going for a renewal price. And yeah, and that's if you're going for just pure value, right? But I will tell you this, Tom. I don't know about you, but I'm more focused on bang for buck. Where I can stretch out my dollar. So I look for something that's a little bit better.
Okay, what do you like?
So there are two specific sections for me that I like, and they're both in the back, still in the defending zone because that's where you're going to see those more value prices. And it is either the very faded yellow on the backs of sections 4 and 21, or the that peach, or the very, very light orange color right on the back of section 5. That's going to be, that one specifically, the one behind section 5, we're talking just under $6,000. Yes, it is a huge jump from the ones we mentioned earlier, but and I'll tell you, Tom, I've got a chance to watch games in NHL arenas, and those corners to me are my favorite places to watch NHL games because it kind of puts you in a unique situation to be able to see everything. I don't like directly behind the net because you can only really see your net, really, the net that you are on. And then even though being in the what you refer to as the sidelines, it's cool. You can see everything, but that's when it gets really expensive. That's where you don't have as much value. Those corners are the best bang for your buck, especially in the lower bowl, you can ever find in an NHL arena.
So, Robyn, I am actually going to, since you pointed out sections that I would also point out, but I am going to look at front row, upper bowl behind both goals. Because once you shift to the corners, the price goes up by a pretty decent chunk. But I think the $4,066 dark purple, which is 119 through 125 behind the attack twice
Easier.
net, represents a good value because those seats are actually pretty limited. There's only a couple of rows there. So you're not going to have a lot of folks around you. Your visibility is good and you are higher. You are raised up there. I like those. And in the defend twice end, they're even a better value at 36.34. Although me personally, like if I have the money to spend $3,600, I will find the extra to go to 4,066 to get those front row attack twice seats in the upper bowl.
And
That's what I would.
that's fair. That totally is fair. And I feel like Upper bowl seats go extremely underrated, right? A lot of people don't like going to the upper bowl because of back in the day when everyone referred to him as nosebleeds because for one reason or another, right? He was like, oh, no one wants it. But at that point, you're still closer to the action because you're at the very front of those upper bowls. I will, but so that's still a good value. And again, as I mentioned to you, Tom, I'm still personally against being directly behind the net, even if it is behind the attacking net, both sides.
Absolutely. And I do want to point out that this map is talking about full seating behind each goal, which this year was actually limited to either single goal or club only seats during the season. So that is a change for next season. So that is interesting to know. And then, I mean, things are going to change, and it's going to take several summers. Bill Armstrong said this. He said it will take several summers to address those seats that are grayed out, the single view, things like that. That's not this year. This year's plan, though, is to make it a little more friendly, I guess, for season tickets all the way around the bowl. So, Robyn, we have a lot of choices coming up here, and I think it's going to be nothing but good things for Utah Hockey Club to be able to offer more season tickets at competitive pricing.
Absolutely. What I can't wait to see here until too is what that expands the seating capacity to, because a lot of people were giving a lot of people gave kind of a lot of a lot of crap to Utah, I think, because when the single view seats were closed off, and even then they didn't even include those in the attendance numbers when they were open. But I think it maxed out at just under 12,000, right, something like that, maybe even around 10,000 seats. But so curious to how much it expands to the addition of the expansion of those lower bowl seats.
Yeah, and I'll be interested just to see, as construction goes along. So I'm a big Toronto Blue Jays fan, and following along for their construction and renovation the last several seasons of their stadium really yielded some surprising results. So even if you've been to the building before, you're familiar with Delta Center, you know it backwards and forwards, you were at every single game this year for Utah Hockey Club, it will be different and it will be noticeable. And when they make upgrades these days, they make impact. It's not like it used to be where they're like, well, we got slightly different color seats and some of them are padded. It's different now. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they reveal by the time we get around to dropping the puck next year.
There still is a lot of limitations, of course, as you know this, Tom, because of you can't change the bones of the arena. Like, it's the way it was built, the exoskeleton of it. It's can only go so far. So like, it's not going to be amazing, but it will be incredible. Like, it will be like we will see some amazing additions, amazing renovations done for what they're doing. It's going to be awesome to see.
They are very confident, meaning the Utah Hockey Club. They are very confident it's going to be one of the best buildings in the NHL by the time they're done with it. It's going to take a couple of years, but
I think by 2028, they said, is when they hope to be done.
Yeah. So, it's going to require some patience. You're going to have to wade through some construction dust, but by the time it's all said and done, it should be pretty awesome. Looking forward to that for sure. Robyn, anything else you want to add to the end of the show here tonight?
No, it's just I feel like exciting news to hear of things going on at Delta Center, and maybe we got you guys a little excited for those Russian prospects maybe making their way over. If you're excited, please let us know and maybe tell us what you think, what kind of impact you'd like to see them make with the organization next year.
Absolutely, looking forward to that. Hey, Robyn, where can they reach us on social media?
Yeah, they can find us on primarily on Twitter /X at @LO_NHL Utah. We're also on Blue Sky at Locked On Utah Hockey. You can find me on X at Robyn_Leaño and Blue Sky at Robyn Ice Time.
And you can find me at Tom Talks on the Blue Sky side and at Callahan on Air on Twitter. So thanks for joining us, everybody. And don't forget to leave us those comments. Reach out to us on social media. We've already seen some great topic suggestions coming in. We are listening. We are writing them down. And we are going to get to them during our summer of coverage here. We're going to be with you all the way through to the draft, to free agency, and beyond. Thanks for being a part of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast.